The Yuuzhan Vong. Here we go yet again. So the Vong were an alien species from outside of the known Star Wars galaxy and would invade after the Battle of Endor. Oh yeah, also the Vong hated machines because they were losers, and like hippies, they also only used biotech weapons and ships. During their invasion, the New Republic, under the sheer incompetence of Borsk Phalia, would allow the Vong to get a foothold into the galaxy, and would also resort back to the same tactics of the original rebellion, which was super dumb of them. Anyways, today's Yuuzhan Vong invasion video is about if the Vong invaded during the Galactic Civil War, just like the title says. So, the state of the galaxy at this time of the invasion sees the Empire without a Death Star, as the rebels had just blown it up during the Battle of Yavin to kick off the official start of the Galactic Civil War. That's kind of stating the obvious here. But regardless, the Empire is still in control of much of the galaxy, while the Outer Rim is mostly untamable, and the Rebel Alliance is gathering its forces for their next major engagement with the Empire. The strength of the Empire at this time is still considerably well, as Imperial fleets are pretty unaffected by the loss of the Death Star, and many superweapons remain in development. The Imperial Army and Stormtrooper Corps remain sizable, however the Death Star's destruction has demonstrated the weakness of Palpatine's Empire in ruling through fear, as well as increased tightening of security on planets has become the new norm. Furthermore, the Imperial Officer Corps, however, is a bit abysmal. The Rebel Alliance at this point is running on the high of blowing up the Death Star, but Yavin Base has been quickly overrun. Luke Skywalker's act has inspired many dreamers to join the rebellion. However, the Alliance needs its hardened fighters as well, and that's where groups like Renegade Squadron came in, with smugglers, criminals, and gunslingers joining the ranks. Furthermore, the rebellion's primary means of fighting the Empire is mostly acts of sabotage and popular uprisings on planets under Imperial occupation. When the Yuuzhan Vong invasion comes, it initially doesn't concern either faction for the most part, as the Outer Rim is decimated by the Vong's penetration points. However, Palpatine is fully aware of the Vong, as are the Chiss Ascendancy in the unknown regions. Despite this, Palpatine's warnings to the galaxy will be rather limited, and he potentially uses propaganda to claim that the Vong are part of the Rebel Alliance in order to rally the Empire together. Either way, the Empire is going to unknowingly be preparing for war that will be coming against the Vong. Once it becomes clear that the Vong are an invading force, the early Rebel strategy will likely be to keep doing what they've been doing regarding asymmetrical warfare, only it will be against both the Empire and the Yuuzhan Vong for the time being. Probably some elements who have fought against the Vong will cooperate with Imperial forces against them for a while, and at the same time other extremist rebels would use the Vong as a distraction for the Empire. The early Imperial strategy also sees them mostly fighting against both rebels and the Vong at the same time, with some Imperial commanders cooperating with rebel forces against the Vong in isolated incidents. Star Destroyers become the Empire's most valuable assets for immediate action against the aliens, as new superweapons are also prioritized and put on the production ring. If the Empire is going to conduct the war with even half of a brain cell, they would try to fight the Vong primarily in naval combat and avoid ground engagements as much as possible to preserve manpower, and also the Imperial fleets are far superior to the Vong. I feel like the course in this alternate Yuuzhan Vong war will see the Empire wage a far more effective campaign than the rebels, because they have full access to Seaburn-style weapons, and can manufacture a droid army to further troll the Yuuzhan Vong. Additionally, Imperial fleets will be able to hold up decently against the Vong, especially in comparison to what happened with the limited Rebel capital ships. However, because the Empire is objectively better at fighting, the Vong doesn't necessarily mean that their casualties would be low, as Palpatine had zero care for his forces, and the more dramatic the losses were for the Empire, then the more he could push for mass militarization and control over the course of a lengthy war. Yeah, I think that in the end the Empire would dominate the Yuuzhan Vong, but Palpatine would also seek to simultaneously destroy the rebellion at the same time. At the war's climax, Palpatine would declare that rebel acts of sabotage and the Rebel Alliance in general had hindered the war effort against the Vong, and due to that, the brutality of the war, the Empire's existence was justified. Basically, it's kind of like he reforms the Empire into an even more authoritarian entity in the Star Wars galaxy, and uses the Vong as a reason to clamp down even harder against insurrections during the later stages of the Yuuzhan Vong War and in its aftermath. The aftermath of the Yuuzhan Vong War may also see the Empire start leading a genocide against various alien species, in general due to the Yuuzhan Vong, and of course due to the fact that many aliens had joined the Rebel Alliance over the Galactic Empire. Despite the Empire seeing a period of brief stability and control over the entire galaxy, the Empire would be licking their wounds in the following years and rebuilding as grievances would grow against the newer order. Therefore, a new rebellion with far more grievances will eventually rise in the decades following the Yuuzhan Vong War for yet another Galactic Civil War. But that's just my opinion. What do you think would have happened if the Yuuzhan Vong had invaded the galaxy during the Galactic Civil War? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.